Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Fake Nerds Watch for Star Trek Picard, Season 3. We're going to be talking Episode 2. I'm Brandon T. McClure. With me, as always, is Cookie from Just a Little Podcast. How you doing, sir?
Doing good, my friend. How's everything?
It's doing okay. We're doing this episode a little bit differently. We're live today. Who knows what will happen? People can show up in the chats when this happens.
It's going to be great.
But we'll see. We're talking episode 2 today. Episode 2 of Star Trek Picard Season 3. Episode 2 is called Engage, directed by Doug Ariakoski.
We'll go with it.
Sure. Written by Christopher Monfett and Sean Tretta. So that's what do we think about this one, Cookie?
So freaking good. I loved it, especially after we last talked. We had all of these things in our minds of what's going to play out, how this is going to happen. Who is this kid? Is he Picard's son? Who is the handler? Is it, in fact, our very own Klingon? And all of our answers were answered, which was wonderful. Or all of our questions, I should say, were answered. And it was delightful how everything played out, and I enjoyed every minute of it.
Yeah, I was really happy to see that these things didn't, and I apologize if you hear me sniffling. I'm still recovering from an illness I had earlier this week. We had speculated a lot, and one of the things that I think is a good sign is that we're already learning some answers.
Yes.
You know, I talked about a lot last season that with 10 episodes, you don't have a lot of real estate to do filler. Correct. And a lot of TV shows, especially when it comes to like Marvel shows, they leave their answers to the back half of the season. They make you wait for the answers. They keep asking questions, and they want you to wait for those answers. But so far, our two major questions, who is Jack Crusher really, and who is Raffi's handler, have already been answered.
Yes.
And I'm happy about that.
I am too. Very much so. And the way that they were answered, like how they came about, how the answers came about were beautiful. I thought they were very, very beautiful. I definitely felt it. Like after you pointed out in the message saying like a warrior, just that word warrior stuck out, and you hit the nail on the head. So we'll go and we'll disclose information. Worf is in fact the handler. Wonderful. Absolutely. All white. Beautiful.
He looks so good.
He does. He looks so regal. And his action scene, I know we're jumping really far ahead, but his action scene was awesome. Really awesome.
Let's talk about everything around Raffi this episode first. Let's start there.
Okay.
Because I actually think her stuff is the weakest part of the episode.
Except for the end.
One of my issues with Raffi in this episode specifically is that I kind of felt like we were spinning our wheels until we get to Sneed, which I think her and Sneed, that's a really good scene. My issue doesn't really come from like her yelling at Worf in the beginning or her handler, as we learned as Worf, or talking to Sneed at the end. It's really the middle stuff with Raffi when we meet her ex-husband. Because her ex-husband is like, when you get like this and you get conspiracies and you get and I'm like, she was right.
Yeah. Yes.
She was right.
She is right currently, right now. She is correct.
Yeah. So wait, so like, because they're like, oh, when you get like this and, blah, 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 blah. It's like, she was right about the Romulan plot. She was vindicated.
I think what it is like her backstory is very much kind of hidden. Like we know that she was heavily using drugs and alcohol. And I think during that time you couldn't trust her. And it's like anything that came out of her mouth was almost like the boy or the girl who cried wolf.
Well, she was a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah. So it's like everything she did, nobody's going to believe her. And it's like, because you've done that so much, it's hard to go and believe somebody. Maybe they're trying to set that precedent with her ex-husband and her own son not really trusting and believing who she is.
It just didn't ring true for me. And there's got to be more to it, because like, if it was just like, I know maybe they're trying to play it off as like, it wasn't the conspiracy, it was the drugs. Like, you see going back on the drugs, but like, how come when she was proven right about the Romulans, that her son doesn't come back into her life and says, "Hey, Mom, I'm really sorry. You were right about the Romulans."
Yeah. You got to think, though, being her son, maybe it's like he has this pride and he's now shameful for not believing in his mom. And he's like, I don't know if she's going to love me because I didn't believe her when she needed me.
But that's not how they frame it. They frame it as he doesn't want her around his child.
Mm-hmm.
Because of what
She's on.
because of what she's on, her conspiracy theories, she gets it in her head and all these things, and I'm just like, again though, she was right.
Yes. So then I think what I'm kind of torn with is what is her reason in this story?
Yeah.
And how does it fit into what's going on with Beverly, Picard, Beverly's son, Will? Like, how does this all connect to be one again? Because right now it's very much distant from each other.
Well, I'm really happy. That's why I'm really happy that Worf shows up at the end. Not just because I really love Worf, but because like the fact that we get Worf at the end kind of says to me, all right, now we're kind of on the track to getting. We know that Worf connects with his friends again.
Yes.
We see him talking to Riker in the trailer, so now we can get to see how Rafi's story starts to intersect the main story.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I think it's probably just as simple as Vadic bought the weapon.
Yeah.
That's it. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, it does. I don't think it needs to be that elaborate for the story to still evolve and grow as time progresses on in the correct direction, which I feel that we had a concern with season 2 and how everything played out and started off great and then slowly started to die down. So far, episode 1 and 2 of this has been really hitting the pace very well, in my opinion. I'm liking it. So I think that as long as they don't overcomplicate the storyline, they make it simple. Hey, this is what it is, and just keep going with the beats that they're doing. Things will fall into place perfectly.
The thing that's important to remember is that with a simple story, you allow more characters chances to shine.
Correct.
And with a show that is famous for its ensemble, as many Star Trek shows are, but certainly Next Generation, if you complicate the story, you risk losing characters.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to keep your story simple, the most complicated thing that we can see right now is that Vadic wants Jack Crusher for a reason. We don't know what that reason is yet, but it's the most complicated thing we have right now. And because you can just have, okay, Vadic is trying to destroy the Federation.
Yeah.
Okay, well now it's a simple framework that allows all of our characters to come back and have moments where they can really shine in ways that they weren't able to in the previous 4 movies.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think is important.
I agree with you, and one of the things that I'm kind of very much looking forward to is LeVar Burton making his return, and we're getting hints. So we had episode 1 where we got the hint from his daughter. Mm-hmm. Hey, this is LeVar's. I keep saying LeVar. This is Geordi LaForge's daughter, and she's now helm of the ship. She's running the ship or driving, flying it. And then we get her talking about her dad again in this episode. So it's just like they keep hinting more and more at her dad, and it's like, we need to get him. We need to get him. Bring him back.
But we know where he is. He's the only one we know where he is. He's at the Fleet Museum.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know where anyone else is at this point. I guess it's probably safe to assume that Deanna is back on Nepenthe.
Yeah, more than likely.
Where she and Riker went to live after Thaddeus Riker died. I'm still pissed about that. That was such a stupid plot line. It's not. I do not feel bad saying this right now. Just in case Terry Matalas watches this. By the way, love your work. He did not write season 1, so I don't mind shitting on Michael Chabon's decision to kill Thaddeus Riker because, like, did you have to make everyone's lives so shitty?
Listen, I don't even know where to begin with that, but that is a whole nother discussion and topic.
That's a long time ago. There's years ago. No, but seriously, like, I think that the part of the fun of this season so far has just been kind of how do these characters come into the mix, and we don't get a lot of Worf, but what we do get was really cool.
Yes.
He has a really awesome action sequence that we only kind of tangentially get. We've talked about it before. He looks incredible.
Absolutely.
And most importantly, the Klingon theme plays.
Yes, it did. I was going to mention that to you because we talked about it in episode 1 with the music of the Enterprise and Star Trek Next Generation. And then we get Worf's kind of musical notes of Klingon, which for me was just like, once I heard it, I got chills and I'm like, oh, Brandon was right. Brandon was right. It was so good.
Music in this season so far has been, I think one of the best soundtracks I have ever heard is Godzilla King of the Monsters.
Okay.
Have you ever seen that movie?
Is that the last one that came out?
Second one.
Okay.
This is the one with Ghidorah and Mothra and Rodan.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
You're thinking that one has an incredible soundtrack. One of the best soundtracks I've ever heard. And because it pays tribute to all sorts of themes from the past of Godzilla. The Godzilla theme plays quite heavily. Mothra's theme plays into it. He creates new themes that weaves them in. It's a beautiful soundtrack. And this season feels very similar. It's playing with the music from the past. We're not just getting a ton of original compositions. We're getting a bunch of Jerry Goldsmith music back in, a bunch of James Horner music back in, and then some. And the composers who I don't know offhand from who composed Star Trek: Next Generation. I don't know the name of the composer, but we're getting some of his music in, and I think it's really cool that we have now a composer who is so just it's so in tune. Exactly.
Yes.
Pun intended.
Very much so. Very much. And I loved it. And everything seemed to, musically wise, everything seemed to flow very, very nonchalantly. Like it wasn't forced. It just seemed, it fit perfect. Everything fit perfect. And it was great.
Yeah. I mean, Worf shows up, you hear his theme and you're like, hell yeah, there's Worf.
Yeah.
Sneed, that's a good scene. We haven't talked a little bit about, let's talk about Sneed before we move into kind of the greater plot of the episode.
Okay.
Sneed is a really fun Ferengi. I really enjoyed his scene.
Yeah, I did too. And I liked his character. I liked the fact that we got a Ferengi involved in this, which was really nice and enjoyable to see. And just see transactions happening again was great for me because that's their whole meaning for life is transactions. So seeing him just sit down, relax, and he's like, transaction complete. And I was like, that's so cool. It just put a smile on my face.
He's such a slime bag compared to like we know that Ferengi suck. But there's levels of suckage that Ferengi get because like Quark is like he's a criminal, but he's kind of like a criminal with a heart of gold.
Yes.
And then like the Nagus is an insane maniac. But we've met Ferengi, but we never really met a Ferengi gangster.
Yes, correct.
And I thought that was really cool to see that kind of like seedy side of capitalism as far as the Ferengi is concerned.
Absolutely. Can you give me a half a second?
Yeah.
Okay. My wife just wants to grab something from me, so give me 1 second.
That's okay. This is only live.
I'll be right back.
Okay. Anyway, I don't know what to do now. I'll show the live people my ships. How about that? Look at that. Cookie is actually having a child soon. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but whatever. For the live people, he's having a child soon, so things are, really hectic in his life right now. So, he sometimes has to bow out. Unfortunately, we have to do this live. So that's the way the cookie crumbles, I guess.
I'm here.
He did it. He's back.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's really interesting having to spin my wheels when we're live.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Oh man. I literally ran downstairs, ran back upstairs. I'm like, all right.
I get it. I had to do that many times on our live streams. By the way, Sunday nights are live streams. If anybody's watching this, check out our live stream tonight. But I have to do that many times. However, the difference is there's 4 of us on that.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. But anyway, Sneed's a cool character, so let's move on. Why not? Let's go to
before you go, I did have a question for you. How do you feel about his character kind of being killed off so quickly. Like you have this build up of Raffi and her husband talking, or ex-husband talking, saying, "Oh, I want to go and meet your broker." And he's like, he's not a broker. He's a gangster. And he's like, he's super evil and he's pretty bad. Granted, having Worf come in and do what he did, but at the same time, it's like, boom, character's gone and done.
See that, but he serves his purpose in the plot.
Yeah,
he's done. If you keep him alive, there's really no purpose. If you keep him alive, he should never come back, and so why not kill him?
Yeah, very true. I like that, and I like the fact that he said he didn't want to keep any loose ends. So he killed off her boss, and he had the head just sitting there. I was like, that's pretty cool.
And like because I think Worf's thinking is this: he's Starfleet intelligence. I don't think this is Section 31.
I don't think so either. I don't know why they brought it in. They should not have brought it in the first place, but that is
because I don't want Worf to work for Section 31. They're the worst. But I don't think this is Section 31. I think that Sneed thinks they're Section 31.
Mm-hmm.
But they are Starfleet intelligence, and they're not supposed to be doing what they're doing. So, yeah, we need to get rid of him.
Mm-hmm.
No witnesses kind of thing. I think this is Worf kind of just cleaning up a mess.
Yeah. In a non-Starfleet tactical way, mind you.
Yeah.
Because he definitely, he whipped out that sword super quick, and he was just shing, shing, shing.
You know what's really cool about that sword?
Yeah.
It's designed by the guy who designed the Batleth.
Really?
Yeah.
So is this something that's like, I guess, really specific for Worf only, or is it something that's like a normal weapon throughout all of Klingon, same as the Batleth?
I think it's meant to be like a Klingon weapon, but like Worf is using it this time. But like, okay. One of the things that I think is really cool about this season is that when they announced that the Next Generation cast is coming back, they also said, and the people who brought the Next Generation to life behind the scenes are coming back.
That's cool. So you're getting a lot of the legacy being involved.
Yeah, so what you have is a bunch of people who worked on props and ships and all sorts of things for the Next Generation are now working on Picard to kind of keep it all continuity-wise. And that's a really good segue to the Titan, because what I think is incredible about the Titan is that there are 500 people on board that ship.
Yes.
It's small.
It's not super small.
It's not Defiant small, but it's not JJ Enterprise big.
Correct.
It's a normal size Starfleet ship.
And when I heard that, it made me think of their captain. It's like, okay, maybe he's not that good of a captain. Maybe he's just an average Joe captain, following orders, not trying to get in trouble, not trying to have an adventure. If he doesn't get told to do something, he's not going to do it. He is the run-of-the-mill captain.
He's a working man's captain who is very, very upset that these people are on his ship.
Absolutely.
I gotta say, man, I really like Captain Shaw. I think he's a really fun captain because, again, like we talked about last week, he's so fascinating that you're like, oh yeah, why is he being so mean to Picard and Riker? But he's like, these people have endangered my ship.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't ask them to be on the ship. Starfleet didn't want them to be on my ship. They commandeered my ship. They tricked me. They got my second officer to commit mutiny against me. Like, I'm not happy.
And he's definitely not happy. And he does such a great job with his character. As far as the actor does an exceptional job of making me still not like him. Like, I still do not like his character. And towards the end, when we have Picard kind of going and taking command and saying, Admiral's in charge here, you need to back down type of thing. He even goes and says to him, he's like, this is on you. So if anything happens to this crew, it's on you. It's not on me. And it's like, dude, grow a pair of balls. You're still a captain of the ship.
You misread that situation.
Okay, please enlighten me.
So let's talk about that scene because you brought it up. So this is at the end of the episode when Beverly and Riker come onto the bridge, and there's the beautiful scene that I want to highlight between Beverly and Picard, where they're not talking to each other, but they know exactly what they're thinking.
Yes,
and it's amazing.
It's just eye contact. That's all it was just eye contact.
And Picard says, "Belay that. Admiral's orders. Lock everything down." And Shaw says, "What are you doing? You're gonna get us all killed. Why are you doing this for some kid you don't even know?" And he's like, "He's my son."
But it takes a while for him to get to that point
No,
of actually admitting it.
but that's important. But that's important to Shaw because now Shaw is like, "Okay, we'll fight."
Yeah, because one, he doesn't have a choice at this point. It's an admiral over a captain.
No, it's not that because he's a retired admiral. He doesn't have to do shit that Picard says.
Even so,
At that moment, he knows exactly what Picard is doing, and he knows that Picard is in the right, and he's with him 100%.
All right, I will take your word for it, and I will let it. I'll let it slide because when he grabbed his arm and he said to him, "This is on you, not me. If anything happens," I could have sworn I heard him say that.
That was earlier, though.
Okay, so that was before. So now that he knows this is his son, he's all on board. He takes back that word and he says, "You know what? I'm in this with you."
Because he says, "You want to protect this fugitive? That's on you. You commandeer my ship? That's on you. You have gotten us into trouble." But now he knows, oh, this isn't some fugitive. This is your son. I'm going to help you protect him.
Okay. Yes, oh God.
Because look at it from Shaw's perspective. I can't believe I'm defending Captain Shaw. I love it. Because look at it from Shaw's perspective. These two old ass men that he does not really care about have showed up on his ship, forced him to engage, forced his hand into engaging a far superior force. He says it. He's an exploratory ship. That ship the strike outguns him 1,000 to 1.
Yes. Okay.
He is in a lose-lose situation.
So that is my thing. It's like, if he's in a lose-lose situation, he said it countless times. Does this one kid outweigh 500 souls? And
do the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few?
Yes. Okay. So out as a captain, he has to truly still understand, like, while yes, I 100% soul-heartedly agree with you going and wanting to do this to get your son back, I cannot jeopardize 500 people for your son. I am sorry. We have to figure out another way.
But that's the thing. Now that he knows it's a son, he's willing to jeopardize the lives of those 500 people.
And why does that change?
Because it's his son and not a fugitive. If it was a criminal who is destined for trial and a guillotine,
okay, I gotcha.
Of course he's going to be like, yeah, a criminal against my crew. Yes, I'm going to protect my crew. Picard's son against my crew? Shit.
Okay, all right. I will give you that. Okay.
That's how I see it. I like Shaw. I think he's a very well-written character.
You've definitely opened my eyes because I did not take it that way. I always took it as, regardless of him being son or not, it's the one versus the many, and the many being 500. Granted, it's not a massive ship, but 500 people, no matter which way you slice it, it's still 500 people.
It still holds more people than the original Enterprise, by the way. The original Enterprise was about 400.
Mm-hmm.
So it's still a little bigger. Real quickly, talking about the original Enterprise, did you catch the name of the shuttle as Saavik?
I did not.
Saavik, do you remember Saavik from Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan?
No.
The Vulcan girl who's introduced in Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan.
Yes. Sorry, yes.
That character became the captain of the first ship to be called Titan.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the ready room, there are 3 gold model ships.
Okay.
Which is the original Titan, which was a Constitution II class, I believe. Then that was captained by Saavik. And then there's the Luna class Titan, which was Riker's ship. And then now the new Titan, which is the Neo Constitution class that we're on now.
Gotcha.
I always really like gold ship models and ready rooms.
So we've had now 2 kind of like callbacks. We've had one with the planet, and now we have this with the ship. So we're having some really great moments where the writers in this series are really like paying small little homages, little respects to the fans who have like dedicated decades to watching this.
And they're always blink and you miss it. They're not major like call out moments. Oh, that's a reference. Oh, that's a reference. They're things that if you're paying attention, you're gonna see those things. But if not, it doesn't hurt you for losing them.
Yeah.
And that goes back to what I think did so well in season 2, which is that like it makes Star Trek feel like a lived-in world rather than just a world we just pop into every now and then.
For sure.
So I appreciate that. There's a line that Jack Crusher says, "Is anybody you know the person you knew?" This is a good line.
So good, so good. I did want to ask you. I want to go back to Raffi because I know this is more of a weak point, but I did want to talk about her coming to grips with, oh crap, I'm now being questioned if I'm part of the Federation or not, and it's coming down to me taking drugs or not taking drugs, and that decision of like you saw it weigh so heavily on her, knowing that she really has to do this. And then Worf in the end kind of saying, I told you to stand down. I told you not to do this. And it was just like a small little slap in the face to her. Like, you should have listened to me. But it was,
should have listened to him, honestly.
Yeah, it was so good to kind of like see her like kind of go through that trip, be helpless. And now wondering what's going to happen to her.
Maybe she shouldn't have listened to Worf.
Why?
I think maybe at this point we're probably led to think so, but like if Starfleet intelligence was just going to let this go, maybe she was right to force their hand.
Okay, if that's the case, with Worf and what we know of Worf and how he's acted on The Next Generation, he was very much an impulsive character. He was, let's go to war every single time. He was always gung-ho, never sitting back until he... Go ahead.
Less so in Deep Space Nine, though.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So now that he has been a seasoned Federation higher class personnel, he's gotten a lot more age to him, and he's understanding why things are done the way they're done. So I think that he has all of this knowledge of saying like, hey, I know what it's like to be a gung-ho, ready to get into the action type of person. And now I've gone through these years. I know why I need to be this person and why I'm teaching you not to touch the stove because it's hot. I don't want you to get burned. And she's still insisting on getting burned. There
could be something there. We just don't have a lot of information right now.
Correct. Yeah.
I'm just kind of spitballing like, okay, well, maybe Worf's hands were going to be tied and Raffi untied them.
Could be. Yeah.
Yeah. There's always that possibility. Cause like, go back to season 1, really nothing was going to get done unless Raffi and Picard did something.
Yeah, you're right.
And the fact that they took it into their hands forced Starfleet to actively participate in this conflict that was going on behind the scenes. Maybe a similar thing is happening now. Starfleet is just like, you know what? We think we got the terrorists. We're good. And Worf's like, we don't though. And they're like, okay, but we do. So stand down.
So he's following orders, but like subliminally kind of spitting the idea of like, hey, you should go and do this. Like,
yeah, or because we see in the trailers that Worf is a pacifist now, although I don't know how that works with him cutting off people's heads. But like we see in the trailers how Worf talks about being a pacifist now. Okay, well maybe he truly thought that, you know what, it's not worth it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not worth it for you to get in trouble.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of ways that could go, and we'll probably find out next week, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how long until Worf teams up with the rest of the crew. I can't wait.
So they're so far away from each other because when you think about it, you still have LaForge, which is at the museum.
Yeah.
You have Raffi and you have Worf in some other location currently. Which
probably, I think it's still Metalis Prime.
Okay. And then, of course, you have Picard, which is on the outer reaches of Federation space.
Yeah.
So they're very far distances between them. How they're all going to get caught up, because right now, Picard's in some conflict. He's in some issues.
Well, he's going to have to get away from Vadic soon.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about Picard's plotline.
Okay.
I really like when he's on the Helios with Riker and Jack, and they're doing this whole thing. They're trying to figure out, okay, what are we going to do with this, with this thing? Are we going to talk to them? Can we talk to them? And like Picard's like, well, let's call them. Let's open a dialogue and let's negotiate. And they're like, no, we can't do that. Picard's like naivete. He was just like, well, yeah, let's talk to these guys.
Yeah.
Let's calm them down. It's like,
I don't think it's a little too late for that.
And he puts in the transport inhibitors. I thought that was a really cool idea to like prevent Jack from being beamed out.
Yes.
And then it like pays off again. It wasn't forgotten. It was paid off when the Titan was trying to transport them out.
Correct. And it was so cool to see that, like, see him. You're seeing these moments of Picard, a lot of visual presence with the camera on his eyes. And you're watching him as these things are unfolding. And he's like, I put this up here to go and protect everybody inside the ship from getting beamed out. And you're seeing these like wheels turning in his head, like, this might be my son. This very well could be my son.
He doesn't want to believe it. He doesn't want to think about it. He's like, he clearly knows.
Yeah.
But he doesn't want to put that in his head.
Correct. And Riker doesn't care.
Riker's like,
come on now. I can see this. You can see this. The timings match up. You know who this is. And it was definitely really good. Especially seeing Picard use a phaser and just like hit targets like it was yesterday.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that's really cool about the season so far is that they're not giving Patrick Stewart more than he's capable of doing as an actor. He's a really old man. I don't know how old he is off the.
I think he's in his 90s, right?
I think he's if he's late 80s, early 90s. Because Picard is 99.
Okay.
Yeah, Picard's 99. And so I think he's probably 89. I think the rule of thumb is still they're 10 years older than they actually are.
He's 82.
Oh, he's 82. So he's a lot older. Well, because Picard was born in 2303 and we're set now in 2402. So Picard is 99 years old.
Gotcha.
And I think, like roughly Next Generation rule was you're 10 years older than you actually are.
Okay.
Because the idea was that they are supposed to look younger when they're older because they have longer lifespans now.
Yeah.
But still, at 82 years old, it's you can't do the same things you were doing when you were 42, right?
Not at all.
So in the second season, there's a lot of stuff that he has to do. There's a lot of weird framing where he finds a way to sit down, where he finds a way to not bend over, where he's always maybe just standing around, leaning on something. And this season so far has found really comfortable ways of like, okay, well, in this scene, it makes sense for you to be leaning on this panel. Okay, for this scene, it makes sense for you to be sitting in this chair. Okay, for you, like they're not giving him too much to do because he's so damn old.
An older man, yeah.
And that's what the benefit of Riker is, because Riker isn't as old as Picard, and neither is Jonathan Frakes. And so he's capable of doing the more physical things.
Correct, yes.
That Picard would normally have been saddled with in the first two seasons.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was really smart.
It's very, very great on the director's like vision of how they're going to go and place Picard in certain scenes, how they're going to go and utilize what he can and can't do to benefit that scene. And it shows like a level of complexity to that director in knowing their crew and knowing what their crew is capable of. So
yeah, and I just don't think they had that in the first two seasons.
The first season definitely not, because they had him running upstairs doing a lot of physical labor. So
they had him do way too much.
It was he did a lot.
Anyway, so they have on the Helios, they do there's a couple of action sequences. I like Riker taking charge. Hey kid, pass me the thermal detonator. It's cool. And then the Titan got a really cool moment where it just like warps in and cuts off their tractor beam.
So cool. I
thought that was really cool. Yeah, so but back on the Titan, I really like a lot of the conflict that we're dealing with Shaw and Seven. Seven is like, okay, yeah, we're helping these people, we're doing this, and Shaw's like, you need to shut up because you disobeyed me.
I'm surprised she didn't flip, like just cuss him out. Like when she kind of got disciplined inside of his office, saying like, you're done, like you're done, you need to go to your cabin and chill out. Like because I just expected her. What? Because
he was right.
Yes, but
even Picard says so. Seven was put in an impossible situation. I get it. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It just like I don't want to like the guy, all right?
He's a really nice guy, though. No, I don't know if he's a nice guy. He's clearly got some issues.
Yeah.
But I like him. I think I really like how the actor plays him. I really like how the character's written. I think he's a Borg. He's an ex-Borg.
That would kind of piece things together.
I think he was assimilated at Wolf 359.
Do you think we'll find out about it?
I think so. I think that's going to be his big reveal, that he was assimilated at Wolf 359 and he was de-assimilated many years later, maybe, or shortly after. Who knows? There's and I could be wrong. Maybe his ship was just destroyed at Wolf 359, like Cisco, like Cisco's was. But I do think he was there, and I think because he doesn't like Borg. He clearly doesn't like Borg.
Not at all.
But Vadic says his profile says he's operating functionally. That's a very strange thing to say to a human being, isn't it?
That is. Yeah, that's the choice of words is definitely very interesting. Which, because you brought up Vadic, and like she knew a lot. Like she knew a lot of not just Federation protocol, but their back history. And as like a bounty hunter, not knowing that this ship is around and automatically having all this information, there's some form of connection that I'm trying to figure out. Was she part of the Federation before and she broke off as a bounty hunter, kind of like what Raffi was?
Well, I don't think she's a bounty hunter. I think that was a lie.
Okay.
But I don't know how far that goes, and I don't know what I don't know how she would possibly know so much about the Federation unless she's got. Well, we know that she clearly has dealings, because they say in the beginning, like he's like, Jack's like, hey, first it was the Fenris Rangers, and then it was Klingons, and then it was a couple of people in Starfleet uniforms. It doesn't say Starfleet, but like Beverly said, trust no one.
Yeah.
Well, maybe she's got people in Starfleet. Maybe this Vadic has people in Starfleet.
Very true. So that's a possibility that maybe Worf knows Vadic is the potential antagonist of the show.
Yeah, maybe. What do you think of Amanda Plummer? She's Vadic.
I know. I'm just trying to. I don't know how I feel, because she seems very like senile in a sense. Like her smoking her cigar was really cool. Like how she lit it was really cool, but just how she kind of carries herself. And then after Picard kind of takes over the ship and flies off into the sunset or into the cloud, the nebula, she's like so happy about it. She's like, yay, I get to do an adventure. And it's like, this girl is kind of like a Joker. She's very
it's very Joker-esque. I don't think she's like, yay, I get to do an adventure. Yay, I get to hunt them and destroy them.
Yeah, that's probably right. Exactly.
Because she clearly wants to kill them all. And
yes.
like what I really like about the performance so far is how campy it is. I think I love campy villains. I think whenever you can do a campy villain, you should do a campy villain. And Star Trek has many campy villains.
Plenty of them.
And the Next Generation crew never really got a campy villain in their movies, and so it's really cool to see them. And I've talked ad nauseum about the fact that Christopher Plummer is her father, and he was General Chang in Undiscovered Country.
Mm-hmm.
I get a lot of that when she's acting in the chair. There are very similar physical actions happening to them. That is being a nice callback, maybe not intentionally, but it's there. So far I like her a lot. I think she's so nice in the beginning, but so terrifying about it.
She's scary. She has this like twisted vendetta that's just waiting to explode, and I can just see her. You want to see how I got these scars? And it's like,
a little bit.
This lady is scaring me.
Yeah, she's fun. It's like she just called them to be like, hey, can I tell you what the name of my ship is?
Right.
It's called the Shrike because it's going to destroy you.
Exactly. And it's like, she's really good. I really like her character a lot. I was concerned with, like you said, the campiness. You like the campiness. For me, it's like, it depends on how well it's orchestrated. And I think she's doing an okay job at portraying her character as evil, as maniacal, as sadistic, all of these like traits that you would find in an evil antagonist. And she's possessing them, but it's like, how is she going to go and get to that point when she really snaps? and she goes from being psychotic to like, I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see where that character goes.
Yeah,
We don't get a lot this season, but I think what we do get is very memorable.
for sure.
Oh, sorry, this episode, not the season. This episode.
Yeah, I know what you mean though. Yeah, I figured as much.
Yeah, I just really liked her interplay with Shaw and Picard. I think this kind of like idea that she knows more about them than they do. Like she even says to Picard, "It's like in the synthetic flesh." How
How does
common
she know
knowledge?
this?
How common knowledge is the fact that Picard is an android now?
Yes, it's so like, I don't know. It's crazy how much she knows, and that's what makes it so scary. The fact that she knows all. It's almost like they ripped pages out of James Bond.
A little bit.
It
Yeah.
was really cool to kind of see everything kind of play out. I did want to ask you, what were your thoughts on the interaction and dialogue between Picard and his son Jack, and him talking about Beverly, like, when's the last time you spoke to my mother? Like, what was going on for you during that moment?
I really like Ed Spilliers as Jack Crusher so far. It's important to note right now that it's been about 20 years since Picard and Crusher saw each other. Ed Spilliers is 35.
Okay.
So there could be a reveal that he's not actually Picard's son, but I feel like it's more likely that he's just playing a 20-year-old character.
Okay.
Because the look between Picard and Beverly would lose its meaning if Jack wasn't actually his son.
I agree.
So I think it's probably more likely that Ed Spilliers is just playing a 20-year-old.
Okay.
But I really think that the scene specifically between Picard and Jack that you're talking about is really interesting when you look at it as a way of like, Picard knows.
Yes.
Like he knows the moment that Riker says, "Do you see what I'm seeing?" Yeah, the answer is yes. Picard just wants to deny it. He just doesn't want to think about it.
He's like, you know how much child support I would have to pay if money was an option?
But it's much more than that. It's like, why would Beverly take my son away from me?
Yeah, and keep him hidden from me for 20 years.
Yeah, so he's like, so no, it can't be. It can't be my son. Why would I can't have a son with Beverly Crusher? And so like so it's really interesting when you play it like that, when he's talking to this guy and he's like, you know, I'm learning about this kid that says he's Beverly's son, could potentially be my son, and I'm looking at this rogue knave who is a criminal and who is wanted for murder on one planet. There's one line that I thought that I love. It's like, wanted for actual terrorism on Binar 3. What does actual terrorism mean? So I think that's really interesting to play that scene. But at the same time, I don't know if you remember the few times we met Picard as a kid.
Okay.
In Next Generation, remember
through the winery?
What?
Through the winery? You're talking about in
Tapestry.
No, the last season.
I'm talking about Next Generation.
Oh, Next Generation. Okay, yes. Sorry. I'm thinking you're talking about the last season that we had.
No, in Next Generation, Picard is described as a rogue. You know, he slept around with a bunch of women. He you read the autobiography of Jean-Luc Picard, and it talks a lot about how Picard was a dick. You know, he was a womanizer and cocky, and he was all sorts of things. And then he lost his heart, and that was a really important moment for him. Ed Spilliers is playing that character to a T.
Yes, very much so. Very much so. And
so like Riker, I'm like, he seems familiar.
Yeah. He's like, you don't see this? Like, come on now. And that was such a beautiful scene when we get Beverly coming into the mix. Like, granted, she's gone through a lot, and they just sedated her heavily. And Will's like, nope, she needs to come out of this thing right now.
I need her awake.
And he gets her onto the bridge, and you just see her eye again. It goes to the eyes, but you see her eyes have this like glossy glow to them, and she's so depressed at seeing Picard, because it's like Picard and her lock eyes. Picard asks her, "Where were you? Where have you been? Is that my son?" She looks down and she looks back up, and it's just tears. And you see Picard hold back his emotions by just closing his eyes, like, I cannot believe this just happened. This is my son. I need to step up.
It's so interesting because you can put any dialogue in that scene, and what's so important is that there isn't.
Correct.
There's never a moment where Picard says, "Is this my son?" and Beverly says, "Yes," because we don't need it. The audience knows.
Yeah.
At this point, the audience knows what Riker knows, that this is Picard's son. He doesn't need it. We don't need it. What we do get, though, is so much more interesting because we just get Beverly and Picard. Beverly, the look of shame of seeing Picard, the look of sadness of losing Jack, of seeing Picard. Picard seeing the reassurance of like, oh shit, this is my son.
Yeah.
And then seeing on his face, I need to step in. And we get one of the greatest line reads in all of modern Star Trek, which is just which is just, he is my son.
Yeah.
which is just like, hell yeah. And then like, okay, here we go. We're gonna fight.
Yeah.
And Shaw's like, guess we're fighting.
There's nothing else around it, so that's it. Well, I do wanted to shout out the chat real quick. There's a person in there, Zach EQ, saying interesting theory. So I just want to say thank you for tuning in and watching the show. If you're still here, thank you. So far, this series has been, as far as season 3, it's been wonderful. The theories from what we're spitting out have been great. Like, if you got a chance to listen to the last episode, Brandon hit the nail on the head with theories, and every single one, just instant hammer. He got them perfectly. So
I'm just really good. What can I say? No, it's all one of the things I really like about doing Fake News Watch as a series, and I've mentioned it before in many other Fake News Watch episodes, is that we get to discuss episode by episode, going through these theories, because that, I think, is what is so much fun about weekly television, because it's the water cooler moments, right? Mm-hmm. It's the idea that we can watch an episode, you and me can discuss it, bounce back and forth some theories, learn some new insight about things that I saw, about things that you saw, and come out of it the other end in having a different understanding with the episode. And then we go into the next episode.
Exactly. And then it's like everything that we talked about so far has been getting revealed in the right way, in the right pace, and it's been beautiful. So
yeah. I want just look at my notes real quick, because I think I'm kind of wrapping up.
Cool.
All right, let's talk about the ending, the very, very end. I'm not talking about the "he is my son" moment. I'm talking about the put Vadic on the screen.
Oh yes.
And just, have you come to a conclusion? What's your word? Engage.
And I was like, that's the title of it. Beautiful.
And I was so pumped. I like just seeing the Titan fire those torpedoes and just gun it into the nebula. Because one of the great things about the Titan, and I want to say again, the Titan is one of my new favorite starships in all of Star Trek. I think it is beautiful. Mm-hmm. It works for me because I'm a sucker for the Constitution class starship. Like, I love a Constitution class starship, dude. I think it's
bread and butter.
It's Star Trek. The Constitution class is Star Trek. Like, it is a perfect starship. They nailed it in the very beginning. This is what Star Trek is. It is a Constitution class starship. And the thing about the Titan that people were looking at when the trailers were going on, it has 6 impulse engines.
Yes. That's
a really fast ship.
Yes.
And it's an exploratory vessel, but it doesn't have a lot of weaponry. It's not big on weaponry. Obviously it's got phasers and torpedoes, but it's not a warship. It's an exploration ship. Mm-hmm. But it's a fast exploration ship. So when they created the Strike, when they're talking about the Strike of like, okay, well, here's how weaponry how superior it is to us. Okay, so we can't fight it, but we can run, and we can outrun
it, and they can't catch us.
Yeah, and I think that creates a really good setup for the next season, for the next episode. Sorry, I don't know why I keep saying a season. For the next episode, because we can get into it of just. Do you remember Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, the ending of it?
I don't remember any movies. I need to go back. We need to go back and just watch some movies together.
You need to, but the end of Wrath of Khan is just a submarine. It's just like a submarine fight. No sensors, no view screen of the Reliant and the Enterprise, just kind of looking for each other in a nebula slowly.
Okay.
I think we're getting that next episode.
You think so?
I think so. I think the Titan will be able to outrun the Shrike within the nebula, and then it's going to be a slow, like, all right, where are they? What are we looking for?
Do you think that this is more of like a, what was it? Discovery had this same type of concept as well with, what's his name? I can't remember his name. The British black dude, and his small ship going
Book.
into Book, and him going into their nebula or whatever, and they get lost and trying to find him in there. So I mean, we've seen it a lot of times when it comes to
it's a tried and true Star Trek trope: hide in a nebula.
Yeah, instant. So it was cool to see that and just like have it readily available for them to utilize.
Yeah,
and hopefully they execute it in a good way.
I think the season is off to a really good start. The ending of this episode has me pumped. I think it makes complete sense that the Shrike and the Titan would be a match for each other because of the Titan's speed and the Shrike's power. I think it's such a really interesting way to look at it, because Starfleet isn't about power. It's not about power. It's about exploration. They're not a military in the classic sense. They're an exploratory force. So of course, in a situation where they're outgunned, well, what do they rely on? Their speed. And I think that's really smart. And I'm really excited for the next episode.
I'm right there with you, man. This thing looks great.
All right. That'll do it?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Cookie, thank you for joining me once again. Where can people find you?
On Instagram at Just Little Podcast. On Twitter at Just Podcasting. On YouTube, I will get back shortly. Just Little Podcast on there. And then Patreon, Just Little Podcast on Patreon, if you want to support the show.
Excellent. Of course, you can find me, Brandon T. McClure, at the Fichtner Podcast, Family Podcast. There's a ton of stuff, guys, so strap in if you want to stay tuned for this. This is Fichtner's Watch. Fichtner's Watch is a series that we do where we talk about all sorts of TV shows after they have aired. There's currently 2 Fichtner's Watch series going on. There's The Last of Us, which you can check out. My co-hosts on the Fichtner Podcast, Sparks and Ryan, they're going through every episode of The Last of Us. A new episode is out now if you want to check that out. This is for Star Trek Picard Season 3, and we will hopefully continue this episode by episode for Star Trek Picard Season 3, so stay tuned for the next week. There is Basement Arcade, which is a video game Let's Play series. There's Basement Arcade Pause Mini, which is a video game discussion series. That actually has a new episode out if you want to check that out. There is Animation Station. New episodes coming soon, actually. And Fichtner Book Club. New episodes hopefully coming soon. There's all sorts of shows you can check out on this channel. If you like this video and you subscribe to this channel, there's also an audio feed for Fichtner's Watch if you want to subscribe to that. We've just dropped all of the Mandalorian episodes that we have discussed. They're now on the audio feed for the first time, just in time for Season 3 of The Mandalorian, which is out on Wednesday.
Awesome. So awesome.
And of course, you can find everything on the Fichtner Podcast, Family of Podcasts. Fichtner Podcast goes live every Sundays. If you want to check us out, we're talking about We Have a Ghost, which is the new Christopher Landon movie starring David Harbour, which is on Netflix. I recommend it, Cookie, by the way. It's very good.
I'll definitely look into it for sure.
We're talking about that this week. Next week, we're talking about, I don't know, we decided not to do Cocaine Bear because we couldn't get to the theater and I was sick. We'll probably do it next week. If not, we'll figure it out. We always do. There's always an episode. There's always a topic. There's always things to talk about. But yeah, so that'll do it. You can find all those on Fichtner Podcast and all the social medias, fichtnerpodcast.com. I'm at BT McClure on Instagram and Twitter. We also have a Patreon, by the way. Patreon and TeePublic. If you want to support us financially. It's a different Patreon than him. Support him and support us, so you know. But we're not a packaged pair, unfortunately. I'm at BT McClure on Instagram and Twitter. I also write for CBR.com, AtomicGeekdom.com, and KaijuRamenMedia.com. Cookie, where can they find you again?
Just Little Podcasts everywhere. Just podcasting on Twitter.
Excellent. Until next time you see us, guys, live long and prosper.
Let's do it. Throwing up all these